Good evening and welcome everybody to the City of Isani City Council meeting for Tuesday, July 21st. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we can all rise for Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doing roll call, all council members are present. Any public comment at this time? No public comment. Do I have well, we do have revisions here to the agenda. Everybody should have K3 and K8 in front of them.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. K3 had a minor revision, and then we are adding K8, which is offering the position of part-time liquor store clerk to Corey Head.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the added items?
One motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Collison and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Proclamations, commendations, certified awards. The Legacy Award to the Rum River BMX is being presented this evening with the Legacy Award for having the #1 BMX track in the nation in 2019. I know Mr. Sean Wilson. Larry, I would hack your last name up if I tried to say it. And Josh Robinson in the audience. The award, I haven't even taken it out of the plastic yet because I don't want to scratch it. So it is here in front of me. If we would like to step up here, if you guys are comfortable with it, we'll take photos. I don't singly take photos. I make my whole council take them. So my staff wants me to take the plastic off, though. I hope you guys are okay with that.
Maybe hand it to these guys, they don't have grease on their fingers.
Come on, Steve. We're all gonna bunch up like we like one another.
6 feet apart.
Yeah, no social distancing.
Nobody's coughing or sneezing. I'm all right.
Between these two in the middle.
These two in the middle.
Cootie and Larry and
Steve.
Sean and Josh.
Do they make them look better, or do they make me look better?
And then
I think it was the first.
you guys are just too wide with the chairs being in the way.
Wait,
So
what?
Jimmy, can you also go behind Jeff?
Behind Jeff? Okay.
And
Well, now you gotta come up front, Joel. I don't like the picture taking through.
He gets mad because I make him do it.
Now your phone won't work again.
You guys never smile. You guys don't ever smile.
That was me smiling.
That was me smiling.
Right hand smile, we'll take a couple, and let's do one more. And
Thank you. She gets to
Wait,
choose
one
out
more.
of
One more.
One more. She gets to choose out of 3. Best out of 3.
She only needs two, she's a better photographer.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Yep, good job.
Congratulations.
Send anything back to me when I send you a text.
Thank you. Should get this.
Did I get it? And not look?
We'll touch base.
Alright.
These meetings, you still like us.
Merkowitz. Thank you. I'll get it. I'll get it.
I'll be back in the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Merkowitz.
Yeah, that's Larry Merkowitz. Miss Wood, do you need to say anything, ma'am?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just make a correction here. I said K3 in the resolutions before you. They are actually L3 and L8. They're on the consent agenda, just to clarify.
Thank you. Do I have an approval for the city council minutes for July 7th, which was a regular city council meeting, May 19th, a planning commission meeting, and June 2nd, an economic development authority meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Burgley and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Announcements. Park Recreation and Culture Board meeting will be Tuesday, July 28th at 6 p.m. City Council meeting will be Tuesday, August 5th.
Excuse me, Mayor. Correction, that will be Wednesday, August 5th.
That is correct. Wednesday, August 5th at 7 p.m. And the EDA will immediately follow that council meeting. We hope around 7:30.
That'll still be, still, the 5th is still correct, Ms. Woods?
The 5th is correct. It's just the day wasn't. She mentioned that because
Oh, okay.
normally we practice that National Night Out thing. And
Right, well, I just wanted to make sure it was the 5th.
yeah, I knew the date was right. And after I said it and she jumped in there, I knew what she was doing. Any council committee reports?
As Fire Chief Jankovich was here, we discussed the possibility of a COVID relief fund money for the county, or for the cities and the townships, and that was all discussed, which we all heard already, but still no news on the joint power agreement. That we don't really know what's going on, but I believe, was it Oxford?
Oxford.
Oxford is having the election in August, I believe, and we may, or November, and the fire district is talking about sending out flyers to Oxford's residents to let them know what's going on. We've reached out, can't get any answers for what's happening there, so.
Granted, there has been this COVID thing, so it's kind of gap in communication, but
But yeah, it's been tough, but yet, you don't want to give up. If you give up, then the certain parties win. So we're diligently trying to push along. But I think if Oxlip's residents realized how much this would end up costing them if they don't move forward with this agreement, I think they would realize it and something needs to change. So, that being said, that's done.
any other council committee reports? With that being said, we'll move on to K1, the resolution considering a temporary on-sale liquor license for Thunder Brothers Brewery. Councilman Collison, you missed this in committee of a whole. We did have a discussion there that we do have Dahlheimer that, what's the word I'm looking for? Sponsors, thank you. Our street dances, as well as the Lions, is the only one selling beer at the moment at our street dances. We kind of recommended to have a discussion with Thunder Brothers, the Lions, and see if we could meet at a halfway point. We would be supporting an Isani business if we did let them come in there. Some valid points are made that we do have 2 ice cream trucks. Why can't we have 2 different beer companies? One's selling craft beer, the other selling tap beer, you know, kind of a difference. Am I missing anything else that the council wants to fill, Mr.
I do have a
Council?
question. That $1,000 sponsorship, we do not have a written contract, correct?
They applied to give a sponsorship to us and sent us a check that we cashed. We
Uh,
don't have contracts with donations and sponsorships other than their application fee that we accepted.
Okay. So what does that imply, the sponsorship? Does it imply exclusivity? Are we implying it?
Yes.
So you said to them right out, you have exclusive rights for your,
I have not said it.
or
this
whoever
year.
said it.
I did
Tell me
not
what
say it
was,
this
can you
year.
tell me what was said?
But in 2013, it was said that you would be the only beer sales because they had, and I don't know the rules, I don't know if it's a state statute or what it is, but there's some competing thing that they have on their end why they can't be on the same banner as a Budweiser distributor. There's some kind of limitation there. And so they made sure that they would be the only one, and that was a verbal agreement, not a contractual written agreement, however. And that has just been a standing order, so to say, of that's just gone on year by year.
So if we added another beer sales or brewery sales, or however we want to put that word, are we abiding by that contract by not putting them on a sign or whatever? Just put your truck out there, pay your, what is that, over to $50 and?
Well, there is no contract. It's a verbal agreement from 7 years ago we're talking about, so.
Well, no, I get that, but it sounds like the agreement is,
Well,
we're not gonna add in another brewery on there, or another beer on their
Vendor.
sign.
we're not bringing in another beer vendor. We're not adding anybody's name to the sign. We have taken a check and cashed that check. Let's keep that in mind. For the year.
Councilmember Burley, if you're asking if we would have to, if you were asking if we were to give the money back, if we had to because we allowed another beer sales to come in, I'm sure that they could make a request that we would have to bring forward. I don't have an answer for that. We've never had this situation happen before. But if they said, well, we'd like our sponsorship because we gave you that sponsorship and the donation of the beer wagon and the other things that they give the Lions to have the sales here, in good faith that we were the only one. So I think that we'd have to say, bring your request forward to get a reimbursement of your sponsorship.
So you're saying that's included in the good faith agreement that we would not put another, I mean, to me, it sounds
Yes.
like what I hear you saying is we won't put them on a sign. I mean, if we won't put them on a sign, then we just exclude them from the sign. If it's, is that all you're saying, is this agreement just includes we won't put them on a sign?
No, I think that that's part of it. I do think that they believe they would be the only beer sales.
Well, I don't want to know what they believe, I want to know what the agreement is. That's the problem here, we're talking about we're talking about beliefs.
It was a verbal agreement
Okay, it's a verbal agreement. Who was that, were you there?
in 2013.
2013, were you there?
I was there in
So
2013.
you remember that, and I'm not saying you don't, I'm just saying, so you remember saying you're going to be our exclusive beer dealer indefinitely? Was it a limited time? Was it?
That's just the information that I was given in 2013 when I took on that department. At that time, it had been made verbally by a different staff member, not myself.
And you know I like you as a human being and as a
There's no question.
and as a city administrator. But I just thought you said you were there, and now you're saying what you heard or what you believe, or what I'm trying to do is get at the facts of what exactly the agreement is. And it sounds like we don't really have a hard and true agreement here.
We don't have
Hard
a
and true
we don't have a
agreements to me are
legally
in
bounded
writing.
agreement.
Nothing's in writing.
Nothing's in writing.
Correct.
Well, okay,
a
but I
conversation.
still want to be true to our word. I'm not trying to, when I say someone I'll do something, I'd like to say we're going to do it. But I don't get that sense either here that we have we said you'd be our only beer dealer. I'm not getting that
And even
sense.
if we did say it, it wasn't forever. I mean, how do we know when it was gonna expire, even if we did say it in 2013? We're talking about 7 years ago. I wasn't here,
yeah.
Jeff wasn't here.
Yeah, I
You weren't
wasn't here.
I mean,
so. Well, I'm just asking the questions that I would be concerned about to bring on another beer. I mean, I want these guys to get their liquor license. But
So with that being said, Councilman Collison, we do support our city businesses.
I think it's a great idea.
We do support our city businesses. However, we didn't want to trample over the Lions and/or Dahlheimer. So what we kind of directed was, well, let's have the Lions and Thunder Brothers sit down and talk about it. But the only problem with that is if we did that, then it wouldn't be in time for them to possibly make the next street dance or not. So obviously it's on our agenda. Councilman Gordon said he'd like to bring it here and take a vote on it and see what the rest of the council thought.
motion to approve.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Burgley and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
It was Gordon. Excuse me, Mayor, second by Councilmember Gordon.
Did I say?
You said Collison.
Oh, sorry. It was second by Councilman Gordon. I'm hearing 3 yeses. Those opposed, same sign.
I'd like to say no, but just for understanding that, like I said, I've known Warren for many years, they're great people. I just don't, I don't want to look at a deer horse in the mouth and see it's wrong way. It's saving us money, straight across the board. But, that's the only reason. It's not, Councilman Gordon, Jimmy Gordon, you're the one that always says, watchdog, 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 spend money, don't spend. Now we're having an opportunity for money to come in.
We're talking about a very small amount of money, and we're talking about a local business that we want to help promote, and I mean, that's,
and I
and
think
why should we close off competition completely I mean, that's more important than dollars and cents, is the right for him to come to the street dance and sell and compete, especially in his hometown, you know?
We want him to survive as well.
Absolutely.
My vote still nay.
And personally, I'm not going to vote either way on this because I wanted more material. So this would carry 3 to 1, I guess you could say. I guess my vote would go as
Abstain.
sustained. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Abstain?
I don't have a vet.
You don't have any, you don't have any money.
I don't have any money involved in this. I don't think I can abstain.
Abstain.
To be honest, Mayor, my
Abstain,
knowledge
sorry.
is that you would abstain if you had a conflict of interest or a reason why you should not vote.
I believe I should not vote without both parties sitting down at a table and discussing it. And if we can come to an agreement and meet halfway between the Lions Club and the Thunder Brothers, then I'd be more than happy with it. I feel like now we're going to lean towards the Thunder Brothers and we're cutting the Lions out.
This says here, consideration.
True.
Well, I don't think this limits.
That means
the-
we're
the
just voting on
discussion.
to consider it.
So there's no discussion. It's been voted and it passes, so.
Just to be clear, Mayor and Council, this was voted on to approve or deny the license or postpone it to a later date for discussion. That's why we did consideration, because we knew that there were a lot of elements that were shared in committee of the whole that were prior to this meeting.
So I guess my vote would be no then too. But it would still pass 3 to 2. Only because I wanted more information and more conversation. But it is what it is. Moving on to K2, the resolution accepting the DOJ COPS hiring program, CHP 2020 grant. We had Chief Myers explain a little bit of this in the committee of the whole meeting. If the council has any questions, comments, or wants him to explain more, by all means, speak up, or do I have a motion to accept?
Mayor and council, if I can address.
Go ahead, Chief Myers.
So there's two parts of that. One part's accepting the grant award as itself, and then the other part is to hire that position sometime during this hiring process of this fall, which would utilize, hypothetically, if we get somebody hired by mid-September, that's 3.5 months left of this year. And that would, if you look at Mike Becker's layout there, we get $125,000 grant monies. So we'd have to use, say, $110,000 from September to September. We'd have $15,000 of grant monies for the rest from September of 2021 to the end of the year. And then we'd have to make up that wage from potentially our part-time wages, which we won't use anymore. And that would put in 2022, would then start the actual budgeted out of the levy money for that position.
And Mike, that's what you passed out here, right? Was kind of a breakdown of that?
Yeah, it's important to note that, I mean, I'm running this out 10 years, just to kind of give that perspective of, you know, we're getting 125,000, but we are committing to, $1 million. I mean, this isn't, it doesn't just end at the grant. Also, the levy projections, the tax rate projections, they are just projections. But what I want the council to at least be aware of, not that it necessarily changes anyone's decision, but just to be aware and fully informed, in 2022, assuming we just analyze this on a calendar year basis, simply because I can't analyze the tax rate any other way, in 2022, if we hire an officer, we are likely, based on how things stand right now, to go from having a tax rate decrease to a small tax rate increase. Again, we're talking about, fortunately, we're managing our budget well, so we're talking about very small numbers. We're not talking about a 10% increase in the tax rate. We're talking about 1 or 1.5% up or down. But if it's the council's priority to add an officer and accept the COPS grant, we'll make it work.
Wasn't this grant specified in mental health, Chief?
Yeah, the caveat to that is it's specified, had another officer with the program that we're trying to, like, for example, they want to give extra officer to do a project. So the project, they're going to be our patrol officer, but we're actually going to address the mental health aspect because we don't have the resources right now. We've done very well with very limited resources to respond to calls, to do what we need to do on the reactive side. We don't have the staff to do anything on the proactive side. So this position is focusing, granted it's just a regular patrol officer, so they still have to handle calls, but it's allowing us to reach out in the mental health side to be the advocate, liaison piece for the mental health, which is identified in the grant, so you have to report that back to the Department of Justice and see what is that program doing, how is that affecting your crime rate statistics, how is that affecting your call statistics, and what that's trying to do as far as the program we're trying to implement along with this position.
Not only should this be implemented in a police department, it should be a fire department or a paramedic. I mean, everybody needs mental health in your guys' field.
Well, this is mental health for the community. It's reaching out.
Well, that's even better.
Right. Like I explained before, 90% of our calls are 10% of the population for certain reasons. One of the bigger factors is mental health. I know we had one resident in town, I don't have the exact numbers in my head, but from the beginning of the year till last month was 70-some calls for service for one person. The resources that's taking away from the rest of the community. Because our officers can go handle the call immediately, but we don't have the resources or the ways to find the mental health help because we don't have the resources to do it. So this is trying to bridge that gap. So in essence, our officers in the mental health will look and say, what calls did we have last night? This is ones identified as potential mental health services, and be able to try to bridge that gap to get the services to help that person, so we don't have the call load there. The community can have the officer for something else.
What does that look like? I mean, how do you actually provide that help?
So
if
it's a
they're not
liaison.
willing, or if they're, how do you actually put that into action?
So 2 years ago, I went down to St. Paul. St. Paul has a bigger program because they're a bigger entity of that. They have their own mental health advocacy group. They actually have enough grant money to hire their own social worker to go out with them. So they'll look at calls for services. The biggest thing is we don't know what's available and how to get these resources because we have to go to the call. We can handle it, the immediacy. Let's say they're doing whatever, either arrest a person or leave. We don't have the time to do the follow-up, reaching out with that third party, whether it's a private crisis people or our social service people or whatever services are there to actually provide and get those two people in common. Because nothing like that's happening up here. So it's what the project that I laid out in that grant was modeled very similar to St. Paul's mental health unit, except for we only have one officer and trying to do it the same way, trying to be responsive to find out what services can we provide. Now, there is some extent where if the person doesn't want the services, sometimes there's not much you can do, but a lot of times there are services that you can provide. You know, a lot of even the one with the 74 calls, they wanted services, we just couldn't provide the services. And then, if you look out as far as the staffing plan that you guys approved, it was last year, beginning of the year, we were slated for the officer to be hired in 2022. That was what that budgeted projection was. So, in essence, this grant just allows us to do that earlier without using levy fees. Yeah, so we're not gonna ask for another one on that staffing plan. We're just trying to push this one out with grant monies through 2021. So 2022 is which is what was approved by the staffing plan anyway. And if, I included that in that other memo, which is the calls for service increase. Over the last 6 years, we've had a 50% increase in calls with our staffing level. So laying out some of that stuff, and that was with that original staffing plan.
Chief Myers, did you get Mr. Becker's grant projections?
Yeah, I just did, yes.
I don't think it affects us that bad. Whether we did it now or we waited, so why not take a grant now?
And if we waited, nothing says we're gonna get a grant 2022 to, push it out a year and a half as well.
Any questions, concerns?
Basically, you're saying that we're gonna get an officer
Sooner.
2 years sooner than, for the cost of the grant, we're gonna get them for 2 years for basically nothing.
Or about a year and 3 months earlier for nothing.
Yep. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Great job, Travis.
Motion carries 5-0.
Make a motion to.
Nope. We have item K3, or nope, we did should switch those to L. Both of them?
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Make a
Okay.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the added items by Councilman Lundin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, we have the closed session.
Correct.
Closed session for a review of consideration of sale of